Good morning, everyone. We are so glad to have you with us today. This is Writers Chat, where craft connects community. And we are very, very happy to be here to talk about writers' conferences and the benefits and, just um, the helpful ways that conferences have helped us grow as writers and just some of the joys and some of the, heartaches too, because there are heartaches from going to writers' conferences. And how do you deal with those, So it's a double-edged sword sometimes, but it is very beneficial. My name is Johnny Alexander. I'm joined by my co-host Melissa Stroh, Brandy Bro, and some of our Writers Chat community who are brave enough to stay on with us today: Pam Halter, Dennis Shepard, David Young, and Kathy Brasby. And we've got other people hiding out in the chat thing. So we're just really glad to have you with us today as we start talking about writers conferences. So when I first started getting published and being on blogs and things like that, one of the very popular questions I would get is, what is your advice for new writers? And I would always say the three C's. And those were conferences, join a critique group, so critiques and contests. And be brave enough to enter contests and get that feedback. But writers' conferences, attending a writers' conference was one of the very main things. And for lots of different reasons, which we're going to talk about. I know it was beneficial to me, that very first major writers' conference I went to way back in 2007. It's the Florida Christian Writers Conference, multi-day. And, what I'm going to say about it, because there were many, many benefits, but what I'm going to talk about is the benefit of friendship. So at that conference, I drove over, it was about 2 hours from my house, praying, not for contracts or anything like that, because I really didn't even know what I was doing. I was so naive, but um, and I knew there'd be appointments. I was scared, but I prayed for someone to eat lunch with. That
Yes.
was what was uppermost in my mind, that I didn't want to be this lonely, sad person walking around all by myself. And so on the very first day, I walk into this auditorium early for the main session, and there's one person sitting in that auditorium, and I sit down in front of her and say hello. My name is Johnny. And she says, hi, I'm Jean Wise and I'm from Ohio. And I said, I grew up in Ohio, and a friendship was born because, as you all know, Jeannie and I, along with Bethany, started Writers Chat several years ago. So we became very fast friends just from being the only two in the auditorium at that moment. So, and we
God
also
knew who needed to be there.
exactly,
Put her
exactly.
there.
And we ate lunch together. So, but we also then another gal came in and sat with us, and she was waiting for her roommate. And actually, then we joined up with another person who's kind of a veteran of that. And we started our own little online critique group when hardly anyone was doing that. And we really didn't even know what we were doing. But that friendship has lasted, I mean, all these years. And, not everyone's writing anymore, but it's we've gone through some stuff together. I'll just say that. And it was very good to have that friendship. And then one more quick little anecdote, and then I'm going to turn it over to someone else. So when I went to I think it was my very first, or maybe it was the second American Christian Fiction Writers Contest, and I was a finalist or a semi-finalist in some contest, and it wasn't the big ACFW ones, it was a different one. And that group was having a pizza party for the people who had, finaled in that contest. And was behind a gal named Stacy Monson. Some of you may know Stacy. And we got to talking, and she was telling me about her story that she was trying to pitch to people, and it was about a girl with only one leg who wanted to be a dancer, and we got to giggling so much. And, and there again, a friendship was born. So I was like vice president and then president of the Florida chapter of ACFW. She was maybe president, I forget, but she was involved with the Minnesota chapter. And so we met that time and had fun. And then we met a couple years later. And again, I was like, aren't you that gal? And she said, with the book about the yeah. So we reconnected. And then we kind of just stayed in touch. And 5 years ago, she says, listen, I'm doing this mosaic. Well, we didn't even have a name yet, but this indie group, do you want to be part of it? And I said, you bet. And so that was the Mosaic collection, how it got started and why I was invited to join was because I met Stacy in line at a pizza party and we got to laughing. So, there's lots of reasons to go to a conference, but friendships that you make are priceless.
Yeah.
Okay, someone else.
It's really because without our friends who do what we do and understand what we go through, we'd give up. Same thing at my writers conference was 1997 was my first one. And
But
but
you were only 12, right?
Yeah.
basically, yeah,
Yeah,
half.
yeah.
But that's where, I connected with at the Greater Philly conference in 2001, connected with Nancy Rue. She was teaching a class, but pay critiques, get them. That's a great thing to do at a writer's conference because that's what I did. Several of us in her continuing session did that. And she said, all of the people I've met with, y'all don't need the workshops anymore. You need mentoring.
Mm,
Explain the difference. There's a difference
Mm.
between mentoring. And so we did a mentoring weekend. Group came. She came back to the conference. A couple more people came, and we're like, yeah, we're more than just a summer fling here. We need to stay together. And we still are together. And we had our first weekend once a year in 2003. And we don't meet anymore because where we met, they retired and sold their big old house that housed all 11 of us, but we keep in touch, email and Zoom and all like that. I would have completely given up without them, completely given up without them. So, and because of writers' conferences, you connect with people like I connected with Cease Murphy, who I
Mm.
adore, and different people that way. And then it got started. The writers view got started, still going on. I was a panelist for there, but that's where I met Brandy,
oh,
so, and that was, my goodness, we met each other for a first time in person at Mount Hermon in 2008, but we talked via, writers view and all there before that. So yeah, we need our people.
mhm.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else want to talk about friendship or something else about the benefits of going to a writers' conference? I should say Melissa and I actually met for the first time in real life at the novel marketing conference in January of last year. And
Mhm.
that's where we met Kathy, who just disappeared. And then it's been so fun that Kathy has, now been part of Writers Chat for ever since then. So we're really glad to have her on here. And if she comes back, maybe she'll tell us some benefits from going to that conference. And one of them was getting to know the people in Writers Chat. So there you go. Okay. Anyone else?
I would definitely second what Pam said about those paid critiques. That was essential at my first conference too. We have a commonality there, and that it was Marlene Bagnall's conference. Only I
Mm.
was at the Colorado Christian Writers Conference that she put on at the time. So my first conference was 2003. And I had only been writing for about a year and a half when I went to it, but I had a finished manuscript. And as a young burgeoning writer who'd only been learning from books and
Mm.
gathering from other writers, I had those dreams of grandeur going to my first conference along with a healthy dose of nerves. And so it was that constant conflict. Oh, I've got this heartbreaking work of staggering genius just yet to be discovered, and it's just got to get into the right agent or editor's hands. And the other part of me being the introvert that didn't want to talk to anybody and was scared stiff. And then on top of it, I was pregnant with my first son at the conference and so sick.
Mm.
So sick. There was one point where I had to run out of a class and puke in a bush because there were no bathrooms close by. This was Estes Park in Colorado.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it was not a fun experience for me, my first conference, and I was miserable throughout. And I literally would have given up if it had not been for some of the very kind people there who were willing to take the time to sit and chat with me through the better parts of the conference where I could actually sit up But one of them was a paid critique with Lynn Coleman, who's a historical fiction writer. And I had sent my manuscript in ahead of time to have her look at it. And she gave me such great advice. And she also kind of challenged me because I met a lot of, opposition there with my first work, and a lot of people basically telling me, yeah, you're just not ready yet. It's not quite up to snuff. And then I came to realize that. But Lynn had told me that, the ever true statement that you never publish your first manuscript. It's, later manuscripts down the road, but I was determined that my first manuscript would eventually become publishable. And so I had determined at my first writers conference that I would just keep working on it, keep refining it until it was ready. And so that was it was a challenge for me. Sure, I wasn't going to publish this first version. It was going to get hidden away in a drawer and never see the light of day again. But she spurred me on to keep trying. And there were other people there, including Tracy Peterson's husband, who was very encouraging to me and gave me a lot of great advice because he had a heart for, young writers who were just getting started. Of course, Cease Murphy was there as a keynote speaker at that year, and so heard a lot of encouraging things from him. Other ladies that I visited with in their classes. So I didn't come away with a contract, but what I did come away with was open eyes to how much I had to learn
Mhm.
and realizing that there were other people out there like me who had been struggling and had, persevered and made it, and they were behind me and in my corner rooting me on. And so that was an encouraging thing, even though I came away with a lot of discouragement too. But I just kept trying. And I came back again to that same conference in 2006, and Randy Ingermanson was at that conference, and I ended up going to one of his classes, and he was the one who really pushed the whole get connected with a group. Well, I had no local writers conferences that I could connect with. The closest ones that I could go to were like 2 hour drives away, and it just wasn't feasible for me. But at the time, I was learning about online conferences and writers groups, and not conferences, writers groups, sorry. And I got myself a copy of the Christian Writers Market Guide. And through that, I discovered Christian Writers International, which eventually became CWGI. And I met Brandy there online and found my people from that point on, and eventually joined Jerry Jenkins Guild and met with my other group of writers who then led me to Serious Writer and Writers Chat.
It really is
So.
cool how so many of you all have just come, like, because the original people that we first started out with, I don't even remember who some of them were. I don't remember who was there, but we've always had a group that it ranges like between 15 and 20, and it just seems like it won't get bigger than that, which is fine. But it is interesting how people come and go, and it usually is because of word of mouth. I mean, it's because of someone else bringing somebody in, and that's just been really, really a cool thing too.
Mhm.
Well, I just did a lot of research as far as uh, Googling writers groups and Christian writers group, and
Hmm.
that's how I found you guys. Uh,
Oh, wow.
and that was early on when I started getting in trying to connect with other writers and all. And as far as the connection and the friendships and stuff, that's very vital. Like Melissa was saying, I don't have anybody close by to do to meet with and stuff. I actually started a writers group, and um, I'm the most experienced person, which definitely isn't saying much, but at least we're sharing and encouraging
Mhm.
each other.
It's important.
And as far as conferences go, um, it seems like almost everything is geared toward the fiction side of things, and I write mostly nonfiction. But yet, at the conferences, even if you attend, um, say, well, like recently I had one workshop that dealt with writing for children. I still learned a lot that I can apply to my fiction, I mean, my nonfiction writing and stuff. So even if it's not your particular genre, uh, and all, writing conferences are great opportunities to still glean a lot of writing techniques and everything too that you can apply to your own writing or to your own genre compared to um, people that you meet at conferences and stuff too. So I think that's one of the greater benefits, and the biggest one's the connection, of course, for me, um, because I've been able to meet a few people from here in the conferences that I've been to. So, and that's been really awesome too. So.
That's great. Who else has a conference story or a benefit or a, what should I say? Well, Sally's going to let us read her comment because I wanted to make sure it was okay with her before we did that she left in the chat. Brandy, do you mind reading that for us?
Sure. She says, I didn't get as much out of my mentor critiques that first year at FCWC in 2013 because I didn't know very much about writing. Even so, I won awards for 2 out of 3 contest entries. After the ceremony, one of my mentor critique people approached me to remind me that my award didn't mean I was ready for publication. My love language is affirmation. So thankfully, Jan Powell overheard that harsh comment and offered encouragement and to edit my stuff for free. Through that conference, I found Word Weavers, where I learned lots in addition to the conference classes. Now I work that conference as the social director. Funny how that happens. I really miss the classes, but totally get to network even more now.
And she does a fabulous job as social director.
I have to say that
promise you.
that has been something. It's funny. You go somewhere, you make connections. You go to a conference, you make connections. And this kind of happens in life in general. When you're invested in something, you get involved. And, like she now works as a social director. I've helped.
Oh, Bradley, Brandy, I think you're
He's breaking up.
frozen. Yep, you're frozen, baby.
I always wonder why people feel necessary to be discouraging,
Don't know.
You're breaking up on us, Brandy.
More than one contributor.
I don't know if she even realizes it.
Maybe not.
Just got internet.
Yeah, your internet must be, or do you have a storm in the area? We used to call them the internet imps or something like that. It's like, why are they always getting us?
Yeah, one thing you said, Melissa, about when they said you will never publish the first thing you ever wrote, your first manuscript. Not true.
Mhm.
Some people do. I did. Went to a writers' conference, didn't even know what one was, but I went with my friend Kim, who's the illustrator, and we had a dummy book and we had matching t-shirts. And my son was in print shop and he made us in high school and he made us t-shirts. And so we went thinking, we had so much fun doing it. These are great stories and like this, surely. And everybody loved us. And we got letters of recommendation. I got 2 rejections picked up by Concordia. And
Yay.
within just a few months, right? And then nothing for years. But I did go to that first conference, and after that first day, I took a continuing session for beginning writers, Shirley Brinkerhoff, who was wonderful. And I came out and I said, well, I don't know nothing about writing, and that's when I just became a conference lover and wanting to learn and be better,
Yeah.
So.
Randy, yeah.
Yes,
Do you
Brandy, you were saying.
as you were saying, because
Yes,
you were just
sorry.
not there.
Well, it's funny. For a little while, I heard you, but everybody on my screen was frozen. My
Oh.
internet I think our equipment may need some updating because it's nice and sunny out. But what I was saying pretty much was when you're invested in something, you tend to get involved, and you can get involved when you make connections. You can make connections when you go to conferences.
Mhm.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Okay.
what I miss. I heard Pam.
Pam telling us that she was one who got her first manuscript published. Yeah, yeah. And Bethany did too. And I didn't go with her to that conference. And you guys, many of you have heard this story because she had two little boys. So I stayed home with I think just the two. I don't think we had Josiah with us yet. And well, I could be totally wrong about that. But anyway, I stayed home to watch the boy or stayed with them, stayed with the boys. And, I was trying to manage her expectations. So I was like, don't expect to get an agent. Don't expect this, just go enjoy it, meet people, have a good time. And she got the Writer of the Year award and came home with like two publishers interested and two agents wanting to sign her. So I was
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, okay. So
That
so these
happens
things
sometimes.
do
Yep.
happen,
That's
but they
awesome.
are
Yeah, they
rare.
do.
Yeah,
Yep.
they
Yep.
Yep.
happen. And
Yep.
hopefully, it would happen for someone in this group or someone listening to this recording. We would love that for you. But for the most part, like Melissa said, and like was my experience, I thought I was ready. I thought this was like the best manuscript they would ever going to see, and everyone would want to grab it up. And no, that is not the case at all. We do have more to learn than we think we do sometimes. I didn't know about show don't tell and
Mhm.
info dumps and things like
Right.
that. And those were things I had to learn, but you can learn them. That's the good thing. And you learn them lots of times at writers' conferences
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
by being part of a critique group. So, those are two very important things.
Now, I've heard some people say, I don't have a manuscript ready. Why should I go to a conference?
Oh, always. There's always something to learn.
There,
Mhm.
Learn,
absolutely.
learn, 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 right? That's the
Mhm.
thing.
And
Learn and
again,
make
for the
connections.
networking,
So it's
yeah.
Yeah.
networking and connections is important even if you don't have a manuscript ready to sell yet.
Mhm.
On the other side, I have gone to conferences and have seen people that have their manuscript ready to sell and they are pushing that manuscript. They're
Yeah.
shoving in front of other people. They're overrunning the person they're trying to talk to about their manuscript, and they are kind of callous.
Hmm.
And it works against them.
Mhm.
So if you have a manuscript, it's important sometimes just to put it down and listen and actually connect with people
Mhm.
and really hear what others are saying and being sensitive to others around you, because the ones that just go and they push their stuff and they rattle on and on and on and just won't stop talking about their manuscript, that actually works against them.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And on the other
Mhm.
side, the people that don't have a manuscript ready yet, and they're sitting at home saying, well, I don't, there's no point in me going to a conference because I don't have a manuscript. Well, yes, there is,
Mhm.
because of the connections
Yeah.
and meeting people and learning. And well, as our resident Sophia likes to say, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Exactly.
So go to a
Exactly.
conference and learn some of what you don't know and go with an open mind, not with a I have everything ready to go and shoving it down people's throats, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm. I
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of my friends on Facebook, I can't remember who it was now because, my brain. I am adamant. I absolutely will not go to a conference till my manuscript is completely done. And a whole bunch of us jumped on there. Oh, no, no, no. You need to go. I said, first of all, what if you work on that manuscript? You've been working on it for years. And
Yeah.
like, say it's 100,000 words or something, big like that. And you go to a conference and you learn everything you don't know, and you've got to completely revise the entire thing. This go before it's done so you don't have to do that.
And you can learn trends and you can
Yeah.
learn what the publishing industry is doing now.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's
And
so much
again,
to
you
learn.
could have met with editors and agents all along the way so that when you're ready, you already, they know
Yep.
you and yeah, and all that. I want to get back to what Brandy was talking about because this is conference etiquette. About,
Mhm.
when someone says, "Tell me about your story," a minute, they don't really want to hear the whole plot
Yeah.
and all the characters and all. So,
And if you're
um,
Yeah.
sitting at a table,
exactly.
the person wants to hear everybody at the table, not just one
Yes.
person.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
I was at Realm Makers less than 2 weeks ago, and some people had paid critiques with me. Well, the first person didn't show up, so I was just sitting there going over because I was getting ready for a pitch. After the second woman, and a writer sat down with an agent next to me. I'm not going to say names, And she had this, and it's 136,000 words, and I know what you're going to tell me, and I don't want to hear it because my story needs to be this. And she went on and on and on. And that agent sat there very quietly, and I'm going, oh, what's going to happen? I'm trying not to, but they're right next to me, right? So, and she got done, and he said, I'm going to tell you why we have a word count limit. And he went to, it's nothing to do with the story and the writing. It's all to do with the printing of the book and the pages and how printing. And he was so kind and patient with her. And she went, oh, I didn't have any idea. And I thought, wow, he handled that so beautiful. That doesn't happen at every conference. You might not get a response from an agent or editor, but the writing world is smaller than you think.
Mm.
And, if you come off like that, they're going to be like a horror story of, met with this person and guess what they said and did. I was sitting there praying and thanking God that faculty member handled it so kindly and nice, and she received it. And
That's
so,
that's the
that's
key
why you
right
go to a
there.
conference to hear
Teachability.
hear what's being said, learn about not just the writing, learn about, I have met with people with, I have this idea. Is this marketable? Is this even a thing? Should I go with it? Because I don't want to spend a bunch of time on something that most publishing houses are going to go, you know, you learn more than just writing.
Yep,
That's
for
true.
sure.
Yep.
Touch back a little bit on what you'd said, Pam, about, some people and not understanding why they have to be kind of mean in the comments they make. And a lot of times there are those people. There's no denying there's people, because there's every kind of personality that comes to a writers' conference, just because there's every kind of personality out there in the world. But
Yeah.
some people feel that they've got to be the hard knocks, got to be the one that gives the person the touch of reality. Somebody's got to tell them. So I'm going to be
Yeah.
the one to tell them. And they
Mhm.
don't always have the best tact in doing that. So then
Right.
they end up, in the case of like Sally, kind of giving news that's more crushing than helpful. So
That's
I
true.
would say definitely go try your best. I know it's hard for a lot of us, especially me, not wearing your heart on your sleeve when you go to a conference, because there's going to be those people who mean well, and they're
Yeah.
going to tell you something straight out, and it's going to land like a load of bricks on your head.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, be aware that those people exist, but there's also the good people there that want to encourage and want to lift you up.
Yeah.
So that's another one of those managing expectations. And falling back too on what was said about going with or without a manuscript, I found it so freeing to actually go to a conference without a manuscript and
Mhm.
just to go to try to soak it all in and to
Yep.
connect with people. That's what it was like for me at the novel marketing conference, because I didn't have a manuscript I was trying to pitch. I was just trying to learn how to market the stuff that I had and try to connect with people to relate, to see what was going on, to
Mhm.
learn more. And that made it so much more freeing, so much more fun. I felt like I got so much more out of the conference because I wasn't trying to, pressure myself to perform. There's so much to be said for that. So
Mhm.
I really want to encourage people, don't set yourself up for too high of expectations. Go with a willing heart to learn and to connect.
Yeah, you haven't wasted your money if you go to a conference and you don't pitch something.
Mhm.
It's not a waste of your money or your time.
Now, on the other hand, I think if you find yourself going to conferences every year, a lot of them, and after several years, you are not really publishing much of anything, then it might be a good time to evaluate, why am I going? Am I still
Mm,
benefiting?
right.
Am I applying what I have already learned? And do
Hmm.
I need to pull back from conferences for a little while to put that into practice?
Yes. Yep. Some people go to a conference because they have a novel manuscript or a nonfiction book, and they want to, and maybe conference after conference, and it doesn't get picked up, and that's all they do. I learned along the way to do small things while you're working on bigger things or while you're waiting. I've done devotions, I've done a couple of magazine articles, short stories, things that keep me writing and getting picked up, um, and being published. And so when I write my bio, or if I think, oh man, I haven't done anything, I got a two-page bio. It's like when I type it, I'm like, oh yes, you have. Because you've learned to do the small things too, and that's important. And it shows an editor or an agent that you are active and writing, and you've learned and you're in. So that's a good thing conferences are for, to find out what else can you do besides write a fiction novel or a nonfiction book.
Well, in almost every major conference I've been to where there have been both like magazine editors and book editors, and they have the panel, right? And, the magazine editors will say, we know everyone wants to write a book, but don't overlook us because really, if you do a book and you sell 5, 6, 7, 8,000 copies, that's considered pretty decent, and 10,000 really even,
Yeah.
so that's your audience. If you do a magazine article, that may go to hundreds of thousands of people. Or if you do
Hmm.
some of these like websites like CBN.com, if you get a devotional published on there, hundreds of thousands of people. So if
Yep,
you really want to get the audience and the eyes,
for sure.
magazines and websites are kind of where it's at. So,
Yep. And then you get your byline in,
mhm.
And
in
they
a
really help to
magazine.
build
And so,
platform.
yep.
Yep.
And you can share your website or or your Substack or whatever you have now, so
Yeah, I was one of those who was adamantly against writing anything other than novels. I'm like, novels is what I'm gifted to do. This is what I want to focus on. And if I do all these other things, I'll get distracted with them and I'll never get my novel done. And so I was just adamant not to try anything else. And then it was probably, I think it was 2014. I had another friend who we'd gone to the same high school, and she'd gone off and she'd become a writer, writing devotions and things. And she had met with some other gals in her area of Nebraska, and they got together and created a website, an online lifestyle magazine. And she's like, why don't you come write for us? Like an online blog,
Mhm.
writing it was bi-monthly at the time. Bi-monthly homeschooling articles is what they wanted me to write. I'm like, I can't do that, can I? She's like, yes, you can. I want you to do it. And so I started writing bi-monthly homeschool articles for them while I was homeschooling young kids and trying to write a novel at nighttime, which was the only time I could write. And I found it helped me to write tighter. It helped me to learn to refine my writing more. And so I was like, well, I'm not making money at this. I'm not getting huge accolades. I don't know how many people are even reading my blogs, but I am benefiting as a writer doing this.
yep.
So it's helping me. And it did improve my novels and eventually gave me the connections to get my novels published. So,
Oh,
Mhm.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes, like, and Brandy reminded us, don't despise small beginnings. That's biblical.
exactly.
If we're not faithful with small things, God won't necessarily give us bigger things. And then there's some people who don't ever write anything small, and boom, there they go. We don't know what God has planned for everybody. All
Exactly.
we can say is, what do you have planned for me, Lord? And if it is to start out writing small things, I'm going to be faithful in that. And that's, I think, what God calls us to, and he wants us to do things with excellence. And how do you get excellent at your craft? You get mentored, you learn from those who know more than you. You get support, all the things that we've learned to do, that I learned to do, having no idea at all in the beginning what any of it required, that to get better at the craft. You don't have to go to a conference ever. You can write and write and write and write, and you can self-publish. You can do all of that. But if you care about the craft, that's what conferences, critique
That's a good
groups,
point.
online workshops, and things, um, that we can do, especially online things now. Let's talk about online conferences. I've attended them, and I've been on faculty at them, and I think it's wonderful for people who can't travel, to still be able to get get learning and workshops, and you still can connect with people because the couple of the ones I've been on, they've set us out in a separate Zoom room,
Mhm.
as a small group,
Mhm.
and so that's been helpful. Has anybody else done that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, a definite second to those online conferences. I would like to see more of them continue because I couldn't afford to travel to or go to another conference after 2006. And
Mm,
so my next conference that I went to was in 2020 to the Kentucky Christian Writers one. I went that long without going to a writers conference because I just couldn't afford to go to one.
right.
And so it was essential and it was great. It was wonderful because we had breakout rooms that we could chat with people and still get to know one another. And the
Yep.
classes were fantastic. There are so many good things about that online conference that I went to.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would love to see more of that and see those that are doing it to continue doing it because it really does minister to the people who just can't get out to those bigger conferences.
Yeah, it's a need. Realm Makers is up to, I think we had 600 people attend and
Wow.
probably about 500 online.
Oh my goodness.
So, people there is a need for
Yeah.
online conferences.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Okay. What else? Kind of open forum here. Well, about writers' conferences. Well, I'll just say I was thinking as you guys were talking about writing small and that or for smaller or what I would say like articles and devotionals and things like that. They're not necessarily small. Um, it also helps you work with different editors. If you're doing that and you're working with different editors, you learn to work with editors and you learn the importance of deadlines and things, which will be important as you go if you move into then book marketing because you know what happens to a lot of us is we've spent years writing that first manuscript and it gets picked up and then guess what? You've got another book due in 9 months and you've never written a book in 9 months before.
Right.
And then eventually, well, for me, it's been the point I've got like 4 months sometimes to write a book. So, you really have to be on your game and to know that those deadlines mean something. They're important and it's a growing thing. I couldn't have done that years ago, but I can do it now because practice, you know.
Yep. There's a couple things in the chat I'm not familiar with. The Narrative Medicine online events, and then American Bookseller Association Winter Institute events. Anybody familiar with them?
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. No, because we just pretty much, I don't know what narrative medicine is. Is that like a writing
Stephanie had
conference
the
about?
The weekly thing, Columbia University started it, and Columbia University obviously is quite controversial right now, but
Mhm.
several other notable institutes and local, not community, but I live in North Carolina, and Lenore-Rhine College has a program or a certificate. It's very interesting, and I encourage y'all to check it out. Um, it's not just for medical professionals, obviously, or I wouldn't be in it.
But it's like
But it,
health related writing. I take it.
not necessarily health
Yeah.
related as much as just working through things that
Mm,
can contribute to your overall health.
okay.
So it's hard to explain in just a few words, but again, I do encourage you to check it out. And I'm actually doing a creative writing workshop, and the facilitator there is incorporating some of it in. You study a passage or a piece of art, and then you respond to it.
Oh,
And
wow.
it draws things out of you maybe that you didn't see, or that draws something out of someone like Pam, and you're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. So
Oh, that is
it's
interesting. Yeah.
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 And they do an online Zoom every week. And then there's a thing called the narrative method that has 4 meetings a week. It's run by Sherry Foose, who created it. And you go on there and you respond to a writing prompt and go into a breakout room of 3 or 4, and you share those, and you don't give any feedback.
Mm,
So
mm.
it's it's offsetting at first, but then again, if you go in there, Melissa's story is so good, but Dennis's is bad. And if you congratulate Dennis, but you don't mean it, he knows that, and Melissa's sitting there thinking, my story was so great. Why didn't she tell me? So
Mm.
again, that's something you have to deal with, keeping that
Interesting.
mouth shut, keeping your applause down. But I've been doing it for over 2 years. And again, it's helps me with my writing. I've got several of my books have used the prompts from there. So that's
Oh,
all I have
that's
to
great.
say.
That's
I'm going
great.
to eat my potato chips. See if I will.
Well, the American Bookseller Association, that's big. So, and yes, it would be a secular event, but that, might be worth, I'm trying to think, I think Bethany might have gone to one in New York City a few years ago with some of the serious writer people, with Kyle and Michelle Medlock Adams, but I don't remember what all she had to say about it, but I think it was a pretty fun and interesting event. So Leslie, I don't know, it might be worth going to. Um, and Jocelyn talks about a writers' conference. Let me see.
There's a little bit of a different thing as
Yeah.
well from writing conferences. There's such a thing as writing retreats. I know that Rachel's been to the one up this way, which I've been to too, which is she and I didn't go the same year, but writing retreats can be a different kind of benefit. They can allow you a chance to come away, consider your work, but do it prayerfully. Take the time that you need to do what you need to do, whether it's write, connect with people, you pray with other people. Writers' retreats are very unique, and they usually build in more time for you to have free time, whereas writing conferences can be back to back with things to do and classes to take. Um, so I highly recommend considering writing retreats as well. And I do want to say that if you go to a writing conference and you find yourself being overwhelmed, it is okay to go back to your room or go for a walk during a class that you were going to take, even the keynote class, the keynote presentation. It is okay to skip if you feel
Yeah.
you need to do that or you feel God is leading you away, because sometimes God has a different plan than what we might expect. And to that, conferences usually have something for recordings that they offer. So if you miss
Yeah.
something because you paid, you can usually get the recording in one way or another. So I'd say if you're feeling overwhelmed, take time so that you can get that, connect with God, regroup, and then go back in with a clearer mind and ready to go instead of just allowing yourself to be burnt out. Because that can really happen very easily in conferences. It's just so much information. You know what they always say? It's like drinking water from a fire hose. It's just like,
Mhm.
and
Um,
there is something also to say about re-entry syndrome when you go back home from a writing conference and you have all of the regular
yes.
responsibilities and tasks and duties, and not everything is all about writing anymore. That if you haven't been to a writing conference, be prepared for that. That is a thing,
Yes.
reentry
Yes.
syndrome.
It,
And
it
if you
is
expect it ahead of time,
going to be a thing.
then it's less painful.
If
It
possible,
happens.
it can help to take an extra day. I mean, I know
You
sometimes
can.
it's, money's
Mhm.
tight and you're not able to do that. But I've known friends who would on the way home, they would stop at a hotel and then have just one more day just to sort of,
It's kind
just
of like you need to
figure things out.
decompress, like you've just
Yeah,
Decompress.
been
like
deep
Yeah.
sea
decompress, to
diving, you know?
take notes, to go over their notes, and then get ready to rejoin the family,
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
can't do that, that could be a nice thing to do.
Yeah. And it happens to all of us, no matter how many conferences that, that reentry syndrome, and then we can talk about like there's times you come home from a conference and you don't feel encouraged, or you come home from a conference on a super high.
Hmm.
So there's those two things to deal with, and there's ways to deal, with all of the things. And I
All
think
the
if you come home disappointed, you have to realize, that as a Christian writer, God has plans for me, and so it's under his timing. And just because I didn't get interest or somebody's told me they don't, some people are not real nice in how they tell you, no, we don't really like this, uh, your writing is stiff, or, nobody wants to read this or something like that. God knows. And so he knows where it needs to go, who's going to love it, all of those things. Then you come on that high, that super high that I'm kind of on right now because I had a good pitch appointment at Realmakers, but I also know that doesn't mean yes,
Exactly. Yes.
because I have the experience of
Yes.
that type of thing. And so we have to deal with both and remind ourselves that all the if people like or don't like our stuff, that's subjective. You know, it's subjective, just like a contest is. It's all an editor, an agent look at things. It's all subjective. Doesn't mean what you have is bad because they say no. They're just not the one for it.
I'm just going to go back to the retreat a little bit because I was really glad Brandy brought that up. I love writing retreats, and lots of times there will not even be agents or editors there, so there isn't that pressure at all to have
Yeah.
something ready. Some of the faculty, like if there are classes and there's faculty, they might, take appointments to just kind of look over what you're doing and talk to you one on one, which is fun. But yeah, and I don't know that I don't really know of many writing retreats at all. I know like people sort of set up their own, but Yvonne Lehman long ago, I mean she's passed
Mhm.
away now, but she used to do one at the Lifeway Center, Ridgecrest in Autumn in the Mountains writing retreat. And I was able to go to that a couple different times. And it was wonderful. It was just these very easy classes, very small. It was like limited to 30 people, I think. And
Mhm.
so you'd have that free time, like, talking about to write, and it's a beautiful setting, so you can, walk around and then you just make those close friendships, and it was just wonderful. So, yeah, if anyone knows of writing retreats, I'd be interested in just knowing what's even out there and available. I just asked Sally to organize one, but I don't know if she answered me and said that
We
she
have the
would.
Renew Writing Retreat up here in New England. It used to be called the New England Christian Writing Retreat, but now it's
Mhm.
called Renew.
Oh, there is one though.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
do they have a
And then
website?
Northeast, up around Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, that area.
No.
We need a writer's chat retreat.
Well, now that would be fun.
Would be fun.
Yeah, it would be.
I don't know where we'd have it with everybody scattered all across the country,
See,
but
And
that's the
Renew
thing.
is a little bit bigger. It's not as small as 30. I don't remember how many were there the several years that I was there, but I think it's Rachel, do you remember about how many people is it like closer to 100 or something, or it's a little like between 70 and 100, or not quite that big, but it's bigger than 30. I just don't remember size.
I I don't know what the size was, but it was less than 100, but definitely more than 30.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind
So
of in there. But
so
it's a good size to connect with people, but not
yeah,
so big that you feel overwhelmed.
yeah.
Mhm.
And usually in nice places where you can just take some time to pray.
Mhm.
And sometimes they do have like a special person come along. Anyway, Renew was one of them.
I think
um
Tim Shoemaker does a writing retreat at the Glen Erie Castle in June in Colorado.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But that's, yeah, you still, depending on where you live.
Yeah, no, but that's nice to, oh, sorry, I've got a little chat thing going on there. Um, um, it's nice to know these things. So if you do know of ones, please feel free to like put this information in the Writers Chat Facebook group so that, people might be interested in going. That'd
Hmm.
be great. That'd be great. Rachel, got your hand up.
yes, I thought so. So I double checked on the BlueRidgeConference.com website. Toward the bottom when you scroll, they have you can click on retreats, and there's a mountainside retreat, marketing retreat, mountainside nonfiction, mountainside novelist retreat, and mountainside speaking
Hmm.
retreat.
Hmm.
So
Where's that at? I'm sorry. I
that's
missed the first one.
they're on the. I'm pretty sure they're well. Let's click. Let's go the. Let's see. Um,
I missed what site you said
Okay,
you were
well, that one does not. Okay, I'm trying to see what's
I think she
it's
said
on the
Blue Ridge.
website.
on Blue
Yeah,
Ridge.
Blue Ridge site, yes.
Okay.
November 9th to 12th, 2025 is the novelist retreat.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
so let's see, because like the nonfiction, they don't have anything up. Let's see what they have. So nope, they don't have anything for the others up. They just have looks like they haven't had any of the others, but they've had the novelist one consistently.
Oh, goodness.
Or
Okay. Did that
um,
take over from the Autumn in the Mountains then? Or is this
yeah, it's the same thing. I think it's
okay,
just renamed.
renamed?
You know,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, so they said there's going to be a mountainside marketing retreat in 2025, but there's no information about it yet. They
Okay.
canceled it last year because of Hurricane Helene. So that's a marketing one. So we'll at least know the novelist one is this year, and there's supposed to be a marketing one, you know.
Nice.
So anyway, so we'll see if they do the. I don't know if they're going to do the nonfiction or the speaking this year or not. But anyway, but it's on their website, so
Yeah, I went
worth
there.
bookmarking and checking out.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's wonderful. And I like that they're doing the genre, those major categories, separately, so that then you really are able to focus on what you're doing. So with other people doing what you're doing. That's great.
Right. And like the novelist is at Ridgecrest. So, and it has been because I've seen that pop up every year.
Mm,
So,
okay. Well, thank you for that information because I didn't realize they were still, I mean, I would look every once in a while, but I think I was still just looking for Autumn in the Mountains. So that didn't wasn't
right.
coming up.
Right.
So yay, that's great.
So,
Yeah, and
I came in,
there's nothing wrong with organizing. I'm sorry, Rachel. I'll say real
of
quick, there's
course,
nothing wrong with organizing your own little retreat with friends. I mean, and getting
mm,
together and saying we're going to spend this weekend, or these 4 days doing this. Let's do it together.
Mhm.
Rachel?
well, two things to follow up on what you just said. Helena Schmuck, I don't know if you know her,
Mhm.
but you should.
I
She's
know the
pretty amazing.
name. Yeah.
She lives in Canada, but she's always off on these little mini treats with like, she's got a group of writers and they actually do compilations together sometimes, but even
Mhm.
when they're not doing that, they do take off for a few days to places. And you can see from what Helena posts that it's definitely, um, there's definitely fun built in. Like they're going to do this and they do this and that
Mhm.
together. But then
Mhm.
they have blocks of times where they're writing and they have
Yeah.
a goal of accomplishing, whatever each one has to do. So I think they have a nice blend there because
That's nice.
but they definitely get their rest and their laughs as well as their work done in that. And
So
that's just
important.
private. That's just private. That's just, you know, I guess you could say privately run, if you will. It's so,
Mhm.
and I came in late, but I did want to say that I had shared off camera last week that about going to writers conferences. Um, some a lot of people will say, "Well, I don't have anything to pitch," but writers conferences aren't just about having something to pitch.
Right.
Just for the writer, that's like food for your soul, as
Mhm.
well as education for the future. I
Yep.
mean, you're building something, so and it's not just what you're working on right now. It may be something that you don't even know you're going to be writing on that God wants to prepare you for beforehand. And also, in the case of Blue Ridge, it's a huge spiritual boost. It's just so God saturated there, and to be among writers in that is huge. Not everyone has that in their community where they live, that kind of, other weird writers to hang with. And also, sometimes God wants to use you to encourage somebody else. So, just prayerfully seek where God has you to be and why. Sometimes it's to pitch that book and get that agent that contract, and sometimes it's to encourage someone else or just equip you for the future
Yep.
or equip you to continue with what you're trying to do.
Yes, girl.
So, anyway,
Okay.
I'll be quiet now.
No, you're fine. We're getting
It's
close to the
good.
hour, but one more thing I want to talk about really quick was what people often call divine appointments, like the things that happen that you never expected. And I
Mhm.
remember going to a writers conference and I was so eager to talk to this publisher who I thought would be perfect for my project. I'd done my research and really just was so anxious to take her workshop and meet with her. And guess what? She wasn't able to be there that year. And it was like, oh, but this is like the only reason I came. Well, it wasn't the only reason I came. I also came because my friends were going to be there. But it was quite the disappointment. And I don't have like, oh, but then this wonderful thing happened instead story. But it still was a great conference. And that's what you just have to remember, that there will be disappointments, but it'll be okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm losing my voice.
And then some people do have those divine appointments
Hmm.
where they're like, I never expected that. So we should go to a conference just to be ready for whatever God has for us. I've tried to pray ahead of time when I go to just, keep me aware, Lord, help me not just for me, to who can I meet or, look out for divine appointment and all, but to keep an eye and help me to notice someone who looks sad, or disappointed or something and try to come alongside because sometimes that's I've come out of a conference with literally nothing but encouraging other people. And I'm like, if that's what God wants, then that's important because I've been encouraged, so there's that as well. We sometimes that's all he had. That's all God has for us at a conference is to help somebody else to keep going. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Pam, I agree. I only went to one writers conference and didn't know what to expect or what have you. And it was at the cusp of COVID. So my roommate had gotten skittish. And so I was there virtually all alone. And I had a meeting with a publisher right before lunch, and she was more interested in catching up with her friends. And I had told her about two of my stories, and she mixed them up. And I just went back to my room and curled up in my bed and howled like a wounded animal. It was devastating. But later, or throughout the conference, I had suggested to some of the members, hey, why don't we do kind of an open mic kind of thing tonight and just share a little? And I shared one of my stories. And long story short, a few months later, I joined Word Weavers. And this woman was in there and she said, I know you. And I said, I get that all the time. She said, oh, I know you. And she thought and she thought and she thought. And she said, oh, you wrote that book about that woman that left her husband at the gas station. And she went into great detail. And I just sat there feeling so humbled because someone actually had listened to me months prior and
And remembered it.
Mhm.
and remembered it. And you can call it God's divination, whatever you want to call it. At that moment in my life, I needed somebody to acknowledge me as a writer. So
Wow.
yeah, Pam, do that. Encourage those people that are walking around looking like, who am I and what am I doing here?
Mhm.
Because it matters.
It matters. You're
Now I
absolutely
want to
right.
know why that woman left her husband at the gas station. I want to know this.
it's it's on Amazon.com. Left.
I'm checking it out. What's the title?
Left.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah.
Left. Okay, well, we need to talk about next week. Ashley Bankhead is going to be with us with Bethany Jett, her agent, as a secondary guest, so to speak. But Ashley's going to be talking about her picture book journey because she has been picked up by a pretty major publisher. So you'll have to come next week to hear all about that and how they managed to make that happen for her. So, if you're watching the replay, we're so glad that you are and hope that this has been beneficial to you as you're thinking about going to writers' conferences or thinking about your own writer conference experiences. We would love to have you join us any Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. You can go around the globe to find your time zone. And we invite you to join our hour now Amazon's on my mind, our Facebook group, Writers Chat members. Check out our Writers Chat page on Facebook and our Writers Chat YouTube channel, where you can find all kinds of episodes, tons of them, on all kinds of writing topics. So until next week, everybody, thank you for being here and stick around for a brief after party. Bye bye.